Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of CXO Leadership Towards Digital India presented by Google on Moneycontrol. I'm Karl Gomes, the founder at Fanatics, a collective where we create ideas and growth hacks to acquire, retain, and grow revenue and love for businesses in a VUCA world. The VUCA model addresses a world in which events are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, hence the acronym. They may not have had a pandemic in mind, but the coronavirus is as VUCA as it gets. I believe digital is nothing but the real world on steroids, and digital marketing and advertising have helped several businesses not just survive but thrive in a lockdown world. These digital tools and platforms have acted as enablers in times of the pandemic. Hence, we are all here today to have a stimulating discussion on unlocking digital for growth, for which we have a very special panel of guests joining us. We look forward to getting their insights on how they have digitized their business and what has been their digital strategy and how have they adapted to a changing consumer behavior in a lockdown world. So let's start with a few visionaries who not just survived but also thrived in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Joining me in this discussion will be Ruchita Aggarwal, Head of New Business Sales, India, Google. My first panelist is Udeep B, CEO, Mayajaal. My second panelist is Ketan Chopra, Digital Head and CMO, Dr. Basu Eye Hospital. My third panelist is Shantanu, who's the Executive Director, Mohak Bariatrics and Robotics. My fourth panelist is Dr. N. Kamakodi, MD and CEO, City Union Bank. And my fifth panelist is Bhavesh Patel, MD, Vikram Tea Processor Private Limited and CEO, Bhaishree Group of Companies. A warm welcome to everyone on the panel. So what was the impact of COVID on your business from a sales and marketing POV? And what are some of the learnings you are taking forward into 2022 and beyond? So Bhavesh, would you like to tell us about your journey? How have you evolved over the pandemic, over the last 2-3 years? How has this affected your business? Because you have been in the tea business, it's been a physical business, uh, and there were lockdowns and there were certain restrictions. So how did you evolve from a marketing, from a sales perspective? What did you have to change and what did you have to adapt to?
Yeah, basically, during this pandemic, COVID period, uh, initially days in the month of March, April, we have no idea what to do, what to do, how to take actions, how to sell product, how to do marketing and everything, etc. Because everybody in the unknown space, right? So, in the month of March, where everything is in under the lockdown, because tea is an essential commodity, we got the permission to start our factory again. After 5 days, we started factory and we started distribution and because suddenly demand increased naturally because people are worried. कि कल क्या होगा मालूम नहीं. They are stocking teas. जिनको 1 kilo लगता था, they are taking 2 kilo, 3 kilos. So naturally demand goes up due to worry. So during this period, we didn't get any chance for the marketing specially because at the modern trade or supermarkets,
Correct.
whenever we send our promoters or anybody sales team, they said not allowed in the shop or promoters to stand here due to COVID rules and everything. So that time we thought how to engage people, and that time we shifted on the digital platform and we do daily activities, we motivate them because the in COVID situation, the people are very in a small flat or in a house, they are going very depressed. So we make them engaged. We make them some event activity with the digital platform on Vikram T platform. So that's why this type of activity we have done during the lockdowns.
So Udeep, what are your views on this?
Yeah, so basically, I'm from Chennai. So we have a couple of businesses. One is an entertainment business with a multiplex mall setup, which is one of earliest India's multiplex. We have currently 16 screens, property and a lot of F&B outlets and pretty much touch and feel. It's a service industry
Nice.
based product, and we also have a construction real estate business where we do development of villas and apartments. So this is our primary business based out of Chennai.
Nice.
So the multiplex business was obviously hit very hard, right? The service sector was really hit hard in the pandemic. It was pretty much the first to shut and last to kind of open. So that in that industry, we basically tried to move most of our marketing online compared to pre-COVID situation. If you really look at it from the business perspective, and increased customers connect with the brand. That's another thing that we found out, and the stickiness is more now that they're hooked you digitally in whichever way, be it a parking ticket to a movie ticket to a concessions, top up to discounts and whatever. The whole thing is in a
Correct.
digital environment now. It's not really a physical vending that's happening anymore. So post pandemic, now people got used to this. Now that's become kind of the norm and the way forward with respect to
Very nice.
this. But it's worked out, I would say. And there was this whole, so in the entertainment industry, we had this whole OTT and multiplex saga going on for the last 1 or 2 years, where the content would be consumed. That was a big thing, right? Last 1 or 2 years, there was this whole debate on the consumer patterns, changing and things like that. So touchwood, luckily, since the last 2 months, theaters or multiplexes coming back and movies started releasing again. We are surprised to see in March we're back to 70% of pre-COVID levels in the multiplex space, which is really which is pleasantly surprising for us too in this industry. It's
Nice.
even post-pandemic, we still see 50% online and digital space transactions happening.
Dr. N. Kamakodi, what are your views on this?
Basically, if we go back to what happened during the pre-COVID time and what are all the things that changed during the COVID lockdown and all, two, three important disruptions we faced. One was there are many branches we had to go under lockdown and with restricted number of employees, and there was also restrictions for people to both come to the branches, both from employee side and also on the customer side. On that, we got deeply affected, particularly on the loan recovery front, because the many of the businesses were shut. There were cash flow issues, and of course, the government helped with the ECLGS funding and moratorium and all. That's why many of the small businesses, particularly, could survive. But one good thing which happened for banking, particularly on the technology front, was that just before the onset of COVID lockdown, we had done enough investment on the, let's say, technology side and digital side, particularly for the customer conveniences and all. And the most important thing is the investment for many of these things had happened even before the COVID, but the actual migration or utilization was not picking up during pre-COVID. But the COVID period helped us to improve the utilization of all these things and improve efficiency. So we see this COVID lockdown as a very what we call important period in our phase, which has helped us to see the inner strength and also the power of technology, and which the utilization has improved quite a lot in almost all fronts.
What are your views on this, Shantanu?
Like every other organization, although we belong to a healthcare scenario, there have been a lot of learnings at our end as well. Just to give you a few examples, earlier before the pandemic hit, most of us believed in face-to-face conversation, in-person meetings, offline marketing, offline presence. Everything you bought or you purchased or you made an opinion on, the touch and feel aspect of it was very important. Be it an in-person meeting or even from buying a soap or you're going for a treatment, you always needed to feel, hear, see, and touch the environment, and then you were able to make a conscious decision. What we have seen, what this pandemic has taught us especially is that the role of digital marketing and the role of electronics and telecommunication aspect in particular has developed a bit. So that is how telecommunication technology, the digital marketing has helped us to reach out to our prospective consumers, prospective customers, our patients, our database, friends and family, everybody. So I think this whole pandemic has taught us lot many things and has taught us for the better. And I believe all the organizations will come out of it as a much more evolved companies, much more evolved organizations.
Super. Super. Let me come back to you. Ketan, what
Yeah.
about you? How have you evolved? How have you adapted in the last 2, 3 years? What have you seen, and what would be your takeouts?
So the COVID pandemic has changed the way we work, we communicate, and that has happened all across the sectors. Even in the healthcare sector, I would say we are in hospital, that is an Ayurvedic eye care hospital, where people were only stepping out of their homes only for getting essential products, essential items, and with the risk of they always had a risk in their mind that they might get uh, infected if they go to a crowded place or to a mall. And people are also getting afraid to even to go to a hospital. अगर hospital का नाम ले लो उनके लिए तो COVID ही होगा. That's the reason going out.
Nice.
So we have seen a Pandora of we have seen extreme shift in our consumer behavior that has happened because of this COVID.
Oh, very interesting. We have all witnessed and experienced consumer behavior changing in the past few years. COVID perhaps caused digital to take center stage in many aspects. How do you see this affecting your business by 2025? This question goes out to you, Udeep.
With multiplex model is pretty much shut. So we basically needed to, bring our overheads into control and keep engaging
Okay.
with our employees. And there was no option there. Like, it was pretty much so. And this kind of created, let's say, obviously we are in the movie business, right? So when a movie opens, so we have this natural. It's actually kind of little easy to market because you have big superstar film releasing, and then you have this crowd interest automatically coming in. So we leverage every movie releases to propagate some information. Like down south, we have some stars like Vijay. Quite a few stars here. So whenever, like in middle of the first and the second wave, there's a big film release in South India. One of these superstars here, Vijay. So that film Master kind of brought the traction back again through online handles, most of social media handles. We did the dispensation, and the crowd started coming back. So it was kind of, I would say, we learned through it step by step. And during that transition, we took the commerce online too. So everything went online. There was no, as I said, no M tickets and contactless vending, and the whole thing happened. So that was for the service. And by second wave, third wave, we kind of mastered this. So now we are like kind of set as a. So obviously, digital kind of brings your costs really into control in whichever industry you're in. That's something that which is.
Dr. N. Kamakodi, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, it has in fact, let's say, impacted on a positive way in almost different types of customers. For example, let us take the businessman. So, in businessman's mind, particularly, they say these 2 years of COVID and lockdown and subsequent changes, it has impacted in a huge way in terms of his perception of risk, how to go ahead about his, let's say, investment, how to expand the business, what is the risk appetite. The entire the COVID episode has redefined the risk appetite of the every businessman. This is something which we have to accept. We could see the changes in particularly both in terms of savings behavior, in terms of utilization of the channels to conduct their transactions, in terms of making investment in the capital assets, be it home or the factories or other capacity creation for the businessman. We could see changes in multiple things, and we are closely monitoring these changes to redefine our strategy as we move forward.
Shantanu, you would want to add to this?
So the consumer behavior has changed in a way that now when I'm talking to people or I'm communicating to my patients over a virtual platform, I'm getting a very good response. The reason being that earlier when we used to, from my industry, especially in the healthcare aspect, when we used to reach out to patients had to come all the way to the hospital, meet the doctor, get in line, get a consultation fee deposited, go and stand in the queue in the reception. These were the challenges we used to take it for granted that a patient will do this. But I believe this aspect, the consumer behavior which has changed for the better, is there to continue, and it is in the betterment for both of us, not just the customer but the buyer and seller, both of them. So I think this consumer behavior which has changed is going to last for a long period of time.
Ruchita, is there any inputs? Are there any benchmarks? Are there any interesting cases that you can think of that have evolved, that have adapted, that have tweaked their marketing, sales in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, actually, there are quite a few examples, and of course, our panelists are live examples of that. But maybe let me take a step back and also talk about how we at Google are seeing the user behavior change or the consumer behavior change, right? Because when COVID came about 2 years ago, it was quite a shock situation for everyone, and consumers were dealing with the shock, businesses were dealing with the shock, leaders were pivoting, trying to understand what to make of this, and we saw a marked shift in the consumer behavior across these 2 years. So while initially it was a lot of shock reaction, then we saw a phase of adaptation, and I think Udeep was mentioning to it a little bit, like the phase, the first lockdown versus the second and the third one. So the second phase was really about adaptation and adopting to what the change environment was. And now what we are seeing in consumer behavior is that consumers are staying with the digital adoption. They're staying to choosing to stay with digital. They're choosing to stay with online. And we have some very interesting behavior studies that we've done, where we've realized that the reason why consumers are now staying is not because it's a necessity, because offline mobility is coming back. The reason why they're now staying is because it's a matter of convenience and it's a matter of choice, right? So it's either the time and cost saving that they're seeing, because of which they're coming back online, or they're seeing the availability of a diversity of choices that's bringing them there. And that's again something that businesses can learn to pivot their businesses from and be responsive to that, right? To continue to provide different choices, continue to provide different features, and also the flexibility in terms of the delivery options, flexibility in terms of pricing options. So consumers are now getting drawn back to the online experience because of these flexibilities and the diversity of service offerings and product offerings that are available. The second thing that we're seeing, and this was very unique to India, by the way, right? So the consumers' consumption of digital content, was the starkest increase that was experienced in India. So we saw 41% increase in the consumption of online internet and digital content versus the rest of India, right? So we had people spending more than 6 hours on their smartphones, of which, let's say on YouTube alone, we've seen people spend 67 minutes out of that 6 hours spending just consuming online video. The 3 V's, as we call in Google, that's the other thing that we're seeing as a trend, right? So the emergence of voice, we've seen a 10x increase in voice searches. The emergence of vernacular, 95% of the online video consumption is in non-English and Indian languages. So we're seeing and of course video, like I said, 95% of the internet usage on the mobile is for videos.
So, as in, I would also like to add into your views that we have seen an increase in our virtual patient consultations, which has been risen around 30% right now. And we see an average that's going to stay at 70-80% will again take another consultation, that too virtual consultation. We have also seen that now people are more health conscious right now. People are started wearing that smart watches that will tell you health rate, how much steps you have taken in a day, and they have been sharing that data with the doctors also right now. So we have then seen that shift from traditional toward digital uh, world that's happening right now. And also post COVID and during the COVID also, we had shifted. We started video consultations. We had onboarded uh, call center teams to address the patients into this and help them in the ease of the process. We have started giving them. We have started calling our old patients who have visited us before this pandemic. And during pandemic, we were calling them saying that your medicines are due. So we were delivering that medicines to doorstep while doing virtual consultation with them. So there were many steps being taken in that way that fitness and health remains the pivotal point for that patients during this time.
Nice.
Very nice, very nice. In fact, on that one, Bhavesh, can I just come in and share some latest reports that have come out? So iCube released this report just, I think, about a month ago, where the internet users in India is now standing at 692 million, which is almost a 48% penetration across the India population, right? Now, out of the 692 million, you'd be very surprised to know that 351 million is rural India. So, this impression and this myth that has existed that digital is only for premium range or that digital is only for urban is something that is changing in India, and it's changing fast. And, we were very surprised, pleasantly surprised, of course, to see the trends. I'll tell you some very interesting stats that popped out for me. So, rural for the first time surpassed urban in terms of internet penetration. The segments that have grown are segments that have traditionally never added to the growth in internet users. 65% of the new internet users are women. And now we have an ability to reach out to them directly. So some very interesting developments are happening in the market today.
Bhavesh, to a certain extent, you've already said that your next brand is going to be launching on digital. So I'm guessing you already are a convert. Ketan, what about you?
So our future is that we have seen an increased surge in our leads from organic as well as paid. So we would be
Okay.
so we are building a complete disease-based website pages so that more people come and read it online and book an appointment. So we are our main objective, or main care for the next future, next I would say not a future, maybe for next couple of years would be to at least go 50-55% in the appointments through digital, acquiring customers through digital. And we also
And
have two
then,
brands which are only on e-commerce right now.
and Ruchita, what about you? You think things are going back to normal? Obviously not. It
No,
will only
I
go
think,
more and more
yeah,
digital, right?
absolutely. I think one of the silver linings of the last 2 years have been that people are embracing digital, coming online, and we are seeing this as a trend to stay. What, however, we do think will start happening as more and more businesses get more familiar with digital. I think the sophistication of digital solutioning and the sophistication of embedding digital as part of your overall marketing strategy will keep updating itself and will keep moving along. And whether it's of course Udeep is talking about customer engagement, Ketan is talking about getting initial customers and leads, Bhavesh is talking about launching a digital first business. We saw that of course with a lot of D2C brands also being successful, right? We had examples of
Correct.
Mama Earth, we had examples of so many D2C brands that became very, very successful just adopting digital as a way of communicating. So we're seeing across the entire funnel, most businesses will start leveraging digital. Having said which, we are also seeing that some businesses and some experiences will continue to be omni-channel. So businesses will have to solve for both, and they'll have to look at it as a way of making it as seamless as they can for the customer. Understanding how to measure the efficacy of digital investments, and measure of success is what will become more there'll be more familiarity with how to measure success and consider that this is successful in digital versus traditional media. Because in traditional media, for example, in print, you had businesses understand that how do I measure this has been successful because of circulation, because of readership, etc. Whether it's TV, again there are terms that everyone's familiar with, whether it's TRP, etc., right? Or out of home, it's eyeballs. Now businesses will start have to understand and build familiarity with measurement metrics of digital. And I think that's the other trend that I feel will now start happening, and I think that's a good trend, because as people get more familiar and get comfortable with what does success look like for digital, how do we measure it, how do we report it, how do we use data intelligently, is what will drive more impact for businesses, and vice versa for digital media companies like us.
No, very interesting input. I think I would like to put this question back to the panel. Would you like to take a shot at this, Dr. N. Kamakodi?
Yeah, one major item what we are able to see is, like say, after the linkages with the, like say, your credit scores, all your multiple, like say, credit bureaus and multiple data now are available with all the banks, and lot of, like say, analytics which is getting into the business. By and large, we are able to use the digital capability to exactly target the customer behavior, what are all the could be their requirement and things like that, go for pre-approved credit and things like that. We could like say now release pre-approved credit as a product. We are in the final process of releasing that and all. We expect that could be get a lot of potential for us, and will make every financial institution more and more efficient in identifying the using this AI or analytics and things like ML and things like that. We could like say make like say people to become more efficient.
Udeep, would you How have you
Yeah,
been
actually,
measuring?
that's a valid point. So in our real estate business, we can kind of gauge it with clear leads, number of site visits, and the conversions per a campaign in the digital
Correct.
world, right? So because there's already a mechanism to capture and see how things are going there. In the mall multiplex space where we kind of do this, we get impressions, right? So it's in a way it's being going digital. It's easy to capture the data of uh, the number of people viewing the ads through the traditional way. So, like you it's much easier to gather the data, to data mine and gather
Correct.
the data. So that's a big advantage. So definitely, like if you have social media handles, your AdWords, like for like because we are on Google, like AdWords. So it's very easy to kind of measure the success. Like if we go look for like a villa project DCR or a movie in South Chennai. So it'll instantly throw up, your uh, campaigns, ads, and the organic, data also. It's not the campaigns and the organic data. So that way, the businesses actually kind of are much more confident spending on digital already. I feel, and it'll only grow better. As I said, I'm a big believer in digital. It's definitely going to be, yeah, as it said, it's going to be, they're going to be more lot more people trying to understand this, how to gauge the success of the campaign. But it's the best, and the I mean, it's the best way forward, I would feel, for most of the
Nice.
businesses. For us, it's been fairly successful
And
already.
and how do you do this? Do you like create dashboards? Do you have
Yeah, we already
uh,
have access to most of the campaigns when we do through social media handles, or we get a whole lot of data. Rather, we get so much data that to kind of filter it and give the gist of it is the challenge. Maybe that's what which
correct?
is talk about metrics, key metrics to the management to kind of
Correct.
get the final data to them to take the next big decision or something. But
Nice.
it's a way forward. So here I may add that I'm actually basically an engineer by education. Did my masters in US in Southern California. So with Cisco systems earlier in my career. I'm basically an engineer. Okay, turned entrepreneur.
So
So I'm a
data
big
mining
believer
is
in all these. Yeah, I'm a big believer in all this because I kind of understand how these things work in the back end.
Shantanu, you want to take a shot at this?
Okay, so I believe that especially the healthcare sector, if I have to speak about in terms of business aspect, if I say, I believe it has helped us cut down the costs substantially. Reason being, when any hospital or a doctor, even if a single practitioner, when he had to inform the general public or the masses as such about a new technology or a new method of treatment or a new modality which has come up, they needed to spend huge on advertising or marketing, even just to dish out the information which is in the betterment of the public at large. It's a public initiative that he's taking, but he had to spend huge amounts out of his own pocket. But with the digital medium coming into the forefront, the costs have been cut down substantially. And the best aspect of the digital tool is that you can tailor your communication as per the geography that you want to reach out. So I believe the digital marketing tools, because of the pandemic, have evolved. They have improved. There is still some scope of improvement, but I think they are improving for the better. And it has helped the hospitals as such to cut down their cost, target their customers in a better way, and hence improve their ROI.
And Bhavesh, what about you?
Yeah, basically we are into FMCG, right? So our product cost is 100 to 100 rupees per SKU, which we are selling on the digital platform. Today, whatever we spend on digital, right, we have given a head to my finance team that it's an investment. Don't count as a ROI or return on investment right now because it's never measured. But still, we are trying to. Now we have given the challenges to these digital agencies that we want whatever we are going to invest, we want 3x minimum business from digital industry, digital platform. So now they are working on it.
Very interesting. And how did you figure this 3x out? Is there a benchmark for this, or because of your previous marketing,
Yeah,
you were getting a certain?
whatever we spend on digital, right? Suppose we keep budget of 2-3 lakhs rupees per month, so 3x of
You
that.
at least should get. Okay, okay. Very nice. Ruchita, is there any kind of formula dashboard that you've seen people using, and is there a way to measure this better? Is there something that these guys can use to do this better and seamlessly?
Yeah, so actually, Google has its proprietary dashboards and tools that are available. So we of course have our
Nice.
Google Ads account where you can whatever you're spending and building campaigns on Google, you can see data actually every hour. So a
Correct.
lot of advertisers who have matching CRM systems in place, they are also able to optimize for their campaigns on an hourly basis. So there are some customers of ours in the FMCG space actually, where they know that running this campaign on a Friday night at 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. will get them the maximum views and impressions, or running this on the weekends, or running this in the morning between 7 to 8 a.m. or 8 to 9 a.m. when people are en route to their office is the right time to run a campaign, right? So there is those kind of visibility that is possible. The second, of course, Google tool itself is so intelligent. It has a lot of machine learning that's working on the back of it, that it also keeps throwing up recommendations, saying that this is your campaign, it is getting you valuable users, this is how you could perhaps automate this. So it doesn't become something that's very onerous for a marketing head or a business head to be working on themselves. So there are a lot of these automation solutions that are available with us. I mean, we have smart bidding, we have performance max, we have lots of these solutions which again businesses can use to optimize and automate a lot of this optimization. And the third thing is we also have something called Google Analytics 360, GA360 as we call it, which can actually give you visibility on multiple channels. It's not restricted just to Google. So you can actually
Nice.
have your other, like the marketing mix and the marketing media mix that you have. You can actually also track a lot of them on this. So yes, so there are multiple tools and solutions that are available, and we are more than happy to make it available to our customers.
Nice. And even if you're not an engineer, you can figure these things out.
If you're not an engineer, you can figure these out because we
Yeah,
have some
they're
very
very intuitive.
sophisticated.
Yeah, they're
They're
very
very
intuitive, very simple. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah,
Oh, very
absolutely.
nice.
We are also currently working on data studio, making our live dashboards. It's been very using the Google tools, mapping the analytics to the Google Data Studio. Every dashboard has been live with all the management. Anytime they
Nice.
want to see what's running across it, things are visible to them. It's not like our newspaper at the next day calls kitni aegi. It's not been dependent on that. Every hour, every minute, you can see actually what's happening on digital right now.
What are your views on this, Udeep?
Yeah, see, I thought, I mean, India primarily had this initial issue of connectivity, right? So that's now getting broken with 4G pretty much, out there everywhere, throughout India. That probably kind of justifies the data that Ruchita just gave us something back. So
Correct.
penetration is very high, and fairly good bandwidth is reaching everywhere. So that was one of the primary challenges, right? So your connectivity issues uh, and good quality of bandwidth after you have the connectivity. That is very important, right? And
Nice.
security issues. So those also were there. But I feel all that are getting solved, and it's only getting better. So because of the regional language rollout in most of the apps, right from Google, that has really taken it to next level. So that kind of really bridged the gap. In especially India with so many languages across the country. So those were the main 2-3 things. See, costs have really become very rational. It used to be a little high earlier, 4-5 years back, but now they've become very reasonable, and it will only get better as you go forward, right? So, the whole ecosystem has really, catapulted this forward, I would say, because there's no more typing and there's no more your whatever, your elderly people who are taking little time to type and fudging with those fingers. All those are gone, right? Just click the voice record with your vernacular, your local language, and you're set with whatever you want to do on digital. So these things really kind of bridge the gap, I would say, of the initial challenges that were there 3-4 years back in going digital for anybody, be it businesses or consumers.
What about you,
Yeah.
Bhavesh? What could be any stumbling blocks, any issues, any problems that you would have faced along this very interesting, optimistic journey?
Nothing such as, but the basically, which is, Jalna is a very small town. There we can't find much more expertise to handle the digital platform, because whenever we take the interviews for the digital people or somewhere, everybody is only Facebook, then website. So there's the expertise it's really again challenged in a B town.
Okay.
it's a little bit challenges there, infrastructure-wise. Still, we are facing consumer from the perspective of consumer side. Sometimes fake consumers are there. How to stop, I don't know. But some fake consumers are there. They order tea 1-2 kg. They take the teas to their home and empty pouches. They sand some murmura or sand inside it and return to us. This is the big challenges to
Wow.
us.
Wow. Ketan, what about you? Any issues, problems,
See, problem
stumbling
is
blocks?
there were not any stumbling blocks. We were, as a progressive brand, we were moving towards how to build a technologically enabled brand. We started while I joined in the organization using an on-premise CRM calling tool, which during the COVID was completely shut down because lockdown time we were not allowed to come to daily offices. And then we on that during that day we shifted to a cloud telephony so that customers and the CRM team can be coordinated and we can be called upon. It was just not an digital shift, but it's also a complete business shift for us that code has shown us. And now we are moving towards that and making this a digitally enabled hospital in terms of technology as well as also the acquisition and also on the attribution side of it.
What are your views on this, Shantanu?
Anybody who has had a good result or is happy with the services, I think people need to be much more vocal. What happens is that if you're suffering from something and the doctor or the hospital has helped you, you're feeling better. If you can just reach out, let more people know, let more people aware. There are so many people in the country who might be suffering from the same ailment, from the same disease, and probably they do not have the knowledge of it or they're not aware of it, and they end up spending a lot of amount of money or in some cases costing their lives also, just because the information was not there available with us. So I believe that we need to be much more vocal. We need to spread much more awareness, especially for diseases or treatments which are benefiting public at large. If it is something which is very personal to you, obviously nobody would share. But if it's something which can help public at large, small gesture from each of us might help someone save his life. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can do.
Dr. N. Kamakodi, what are your views on this?
Basic issue is I won't say it as a challenge. Maybe that what we can say is that we don't have, I mean, particularly normally in banking, particularly traditional bank, be it public sector or private sector, the senior executive probably will be, like say, coming to the senior generation with may not be in a position to understand the power of digital too much, which has become the normal, what do you call, for example, people of our generation, we got introduced to mobile phone maybe when we touched only 30 years. But if you look into this generation, younger generation of people, they are able to adapt to these things probably from the 15 years of even 10 standard students. My son, he is now asking for a mobile phone. And his worry is that all his classmates are having, but he is not having a phone yet. So now even the younger generation is fully tied up with that. Hence, to what extent it impacts is something which were not been properly understood by the particularly the senior bankers, which is now changing. I'm 200% hopeful that going forward the digital marketing budget will get into a larger share of the advertisement spending of all businesses per se going forward.
Ruchita, what about you? These guys are too optimistic and too positive. Do you think that there have been stumbling blocks that other people have gone through and overcome it? Or would you also say that I've always believed that every issue, every problem that we face is a learning or an experience. So
no, you're absolutely right. In fact, some of the pieces that Ketan spoke about, like, just having a CRM tool to, know what's happening with your business, what's happening with your campaign, what's happening with the results is, I think, a key roadblock that we face with many businesses. While there may be a desire and a vision and a mission to get to a very technologically advanced position where there's complete visibility end to end, but that also is a journey that every business has to be on, and it may not be a very cheap journey. So you have to invest on it for the medium term, and also identifying the right solution, identifying the right people, as Bhavesh also mentioned, right? I think that is a true problem. That is a genuine problem that I think in it may be possible that in, let's say, the urban centers, there may be availability of talent, or there may be availability of people who are knowledgeable and experts, but that does not translate into when you go beyond the top 4 or the top 6 metros, right? And that's a very, very genuine problem that we face or we hear from our business leaders. Availability of technology. A lot of companies started to embrace technology only triggered by what happened with COVID, right? But the technology, the digitization or adopting technology across your functions, whether, we spoke about CRM, but even when you look at other functions, customer service, or you look at, other, order taking, Bhavesh also spoke about order taking from customers, verifying whether it's a verified customer, or, making calls to your leads. I think all of that is also a journey that we face. And, I think so some of the areas where we offer to help is that at least on the digital marketing area.
Got your point. Very impressive. I've always believed digital is the real world on steroids. On that note, I'm curious to learn how businesses are utilizing digital to drive offline consumer behavior. Do you think offline consumer behavior can be built on digital? Dr. N. Kamakodi, what are your views on this?
This is going to be the future. We have already started. In fact, when we went for let's say, when we introduced our let's say keychain debit card, which is nothing but a wearable, which could be without let's say a physical card, which could be used for making transactions through a POS machine and also through the clock. Let's say the ensured that it should be a sort of neo banking product where the entire application by the customer should be through the online channel and not through the physical channel. In first, let's say about tens of close to about 10,000 let's say keychains were in fact purchased by the customers within the first couple of 2-3 weeks of introduction of the product. Similarly, when to ensure that this product is went, we used a lot of channels, be it through the let's say all the social media sites, and even through the let's say messages through our CUB all-in-one app, or through other social media channels, and also through let's say digital websites and all. We could see lot of traction, and we could see lot of non-customers. They downloaded the app, opened their account, and used that to go and apply for this particular channel and all. This digital one is able to clearly show that how many people have viewed that, how many people from there have gone to the website to check the detail, and how many people have actually made the purchases, and getting the actual the return on investment through the digital advertisement is getting like say we are able to see much more productivity here. And I think going forward this will take a lion's share in few years, and there is no second opinion about that.
Shantanu, you would want to add to this?
A very good example from me was that one of our patients who we had treated, he went online, he posted a video of himself, he shared his images, how he was before our treatment, how he's currently doing now, what has the improvements in his lifestyle, how he is able to spend much more time with his family, play with his kids, while earlier his weight as such was not allowing him to do so. So that video, we were not aware, nobody was aware. He posted just offhand through his own social media handle, and it just went viral in Nairobi. And so many patients then started to reach out to us. While it was never intended from our side, we never paid for it. The patient never paid for it. He never thought that something like this would. And he just became a celebrity overnight because so many people reached out to him. And the best part was that because the video that he posted, so many patients who earlier did not have the knowledge that such a treatment exists, or where do we have to go, how should we help ourselves, what are the options available, that information was available to them at free of cost. The hospital did not spend anything, the patient did not charge anything, but the public at large benefited. Even a small simple video of a person sharing his own experiences of undergoing the treatment and how he has benefited and how his life has transformed can do the same wonders for you.
Ruchita, this one is for you. How does your team at Google help advertisers get started with a digital marketing strategy and address any challenges similar to these?
We are a team of experts. Consider us as your extended marketing team, and we are here to help build, the marketing strategy that will be most optimal for the business objectives that you're looking to solve for. So you share with us what your growth objectives are. tell us where you want to take your business in the next 3 months to 3 years, and we will be the consultants for you, where we can build the strategies for you. We will also handhold you, initially to set up these campaigns for success, maybe train your teams, to actually take this forward on their own going forward. And so that's the offer, and that's the help that we at least do extend to our advertisers, and that's available to everybody on this panel as well today. Me and my team would be more than happy to collaborate with all of you. And Udeep, you seem to be a little bit more evolved in your journey, so we also have some very interesting solutions for more digitally evolved life journey that you see. Everyone's on a different life stage of the company, but yeah, there are a lot of challenges still existing. And but the momentum on the growth and the change has been very, very significant in the last 1 year.
So net, to summarize the discussion we had today, a volatile future needs visionary leaders with purpose like our panel, leaders who are aware, conscious, and sustainable. Uncertain market conditions need predictable systems, and our panel have explained how dashboards have helped them through the pandemic. Complex people need simplified experiences, mass customized and personalized, 360, 365, 24/7. And an ambiguous world needs agile business models, lean, mean fighting machines. So I would like to thank all the panelists for a very insightful and optimistic discussion to tide us through a post-COVID world. And for everyone watching this, hope this has been meaningful for you too. Thank you once again.